Welcome everyone to another fantastic podcast. Super excited to have our second female coach, Coach Maria Procopio, who is a USSF C license and FA Level 2 qualified coach, currently with Sheridan Women's Soccer, Pro Stars Soccer Academy, and Bolton Soccer Club. So, Coach Maria, thank you for agreeing to be a part of this podcast. How are you doing? And also, why don't we hear from you about your journey so far?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Excited to share a little bit about my story and the female game and the aspect from a female coach. And yeah, my journey's been great. I reside here in Canada, just outside of Toronto. But I've had a unique journey going over to Italy when I was a teenager to play, and then coming back here to Canada to finish up school, and then going back to the United States to play, coming back to Canada, and then ultimately deciding I wanted to become a full time football coach and moving to England to become a fully licensed coach in probably one of the hardest countries, but the best countries to get your license.
Yeah.
So that was a great journey. And now here back in Canada, I have my own soccer academy, work with a couple clubs in the area, but mainly just try to focus on female football and getting females to the next levels is kind of where my journey has taken me and what I want to do continuing with the players here in North America.
So you have quite a big responsibility, I'd say, because we are going to go delve more into how to develop the women's game. But now you hold three roles currently. So how do you manage to juggle between so many roles and, give maximum output wherever you work?
Yeah, so with those three roles, I see players all the way from a beginner stage all the way up to a semi-professional level. So it is quite a different range. I think as an experienced coach, wearing those different hats of being able to go to one session with younger kids, and then an hour later, I'm with a semi-professional environment. Definitely is challenging at times, but at the end of the day is doing a lot of the work during the day to create session plans and programs and periodization to get not only myself ready but my players ready for what is next. And at the beginner stages, working with younger kids and mentoring them and coaches is mainly just loving the sport, having fun, and developing skills. And then at the semi-professional and the leagues that we play in where results matter is getting them ready to compete at the highest level. So it is quite a different journey. And again, I love doing it, but yeah, definitely challenging at times. But being as organized as possible is the most important thing when you wear that many hats.
So would you consider yourself a full-time football coach? Is this all you do? A full-time soccer coach?
Yeah, this is all I do. So some people see me and I tell them, hey, I coach in football and soccer full time, and they, kind of look at me like, wow, you can make a career of that. I know a lot of people are jealous that they have to work a job in an office all day and then go to the field. But yeah, I do well to make it work, and I get to wake up every day and be able to coach and be on the field and get kids to the next levels. It's quite rewarding, and I couldn't see myself being in an office. I never thought that when I went through my coaching journey and my playing journey. I always thought if I could do this full time, I'm going to really try and actively pursue it, which we have.
You're living the dream, that's for sure. And
Yep.
now you mentor coaches at a club that you work with. So, what is your technique for mentoring?
Yeah, so I think for mentoring is I put myself in their shoes. So I've been there. I've gotten mentorship before. So as a young player, I was mentored. I think we all are mentored in life by someone or different people. But I think the main thing is that reflection piece. I always speak about it to my players and mentorship coaches is reflecting on session plans and being open to feedback, because no matter what we do on the field, even in a game, a professional, a coach, a manager, whoever, there are mistakes made, and can we learn from them? So I think reflection is number one, and being prepared. And again, being prepared is one thing, but the plan never stays the same. So I think for those younger coaches and the coaches I'm mentoring, our big things are reflection and adaptability, because you need that in everyday life, you need that on the field, you need that off the field. So it's important that we teach those basic steps, and then obviously football comes second. Is once players and mentorship coaches understand that, then we can really start to build in specific themes for soccer.
So if you had to, because I would have, I never realized the importance of mentorship until I was coaching for a few years. So if you had to tell, let's say, entry level beginner coaches about the importance of, getting a mentor, what would you tell them? How would you explain it?
Anyone can needs a mentor, even if it's a, someone. Sometimes a mentor could be younger. When you get into the adulthood, it could be someone younger that you look up to, that's done different things. But mentorship is huge, and it doesn't have to be someone in person. There's now, with social media and devices and all of that stuff, it's easy to find TikTokers in your field, or YouTubers, or articles on different platforms. It's easier to find now than it was when the internet and social media wasn't really big. It was tough, right? You're reading books, or you're trying to find social groups to find those mentorships. Now it's much easier. I always say, my DMs are open. People reach out all the time for advice, and I'm happy to share as much advice as I can give people. But yeah, local clubs I know are starting to do like mentorship programs, which is awesome. So I'm sure if you were to go on Google and type mentorship for my field, you'd be able to come. But it's number one. You don't know the answers to everything, and I think the more humble and the more you can be open to that, and be willing to learn, it would be great, for you and your development in your journey.
Definitely, I can't agree more. There are some brilliant points there. Now, just for the listeners and the viewers, so the next few set of questions are going to be very similar to what I had asked the previous female coach, because it'll be interesting to know another opinion, another female coach's opinion. So, can we start off by understanding a little bit of an overview of what the female soccer landscape is like in Canada?
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. There are way more leagues. We still don't have, so I think we're the only top 10 nation without a pro league.
Mm.
I know the league is coming, but I know they're not trying to rush it because they want to make sure it gets off the ground running. But we struggle with pathways for players here in Canada. So a lot of our pathways, once a player reaches university or college, they don't come home to anything but a semi-professional league. So a lot of our players will stay over in America or go overseas to Europe or South America to play, because we don't have a league here. And again, that will all change in the next couple of years, because a league's been announced. But until then, a lot of players decide to go elsewhere to play, and that makes it hard, right? Being away from family and friends and all of that. But the leagues here at the youth side, our youth teams across Canada, there are some fantastic players, all the way up to our high school levels. It's just the pathway is a little broken right now, and hopefully in the next couple of years it's fixed. So that way we're filtering players and they're staying here on home soil. So that way we can really look at them and develop them, because we're a top 10 nation for female football and in the world. So we need that league here in Canada.
Yeah, let's hope that there are more provisions domestically for such talented players in Canada for sure. Now, do you only work with female players or do you also coach male players?
Yeah, I coach male players. I get that question a lot. My Instagram is filled with, tournaments and events for females. But I did work at an MLS club when I first moved back to Canada on the male side. So that was a exciting opportunity. There, the male game is amazing. I train boys still here, but I would say it's probably 80% females, 20% males. So the males bring something different to the game when I do train them. I don't coach males full time, but I do have them in some of my training sessions, and it's just awesome to see. It's nice for me as a coach as well to kind of switch off from what I do with female players to a male player, and I have a male full time group on a Friday night, and I absolutely love it and enjoy it. There's 6 boys that train with me, and it's fantastic. So yeah, you'll see males here and there in some of my sessions, but yeah, mainly female focused, but never will turn down a male player.
Well, so you have the experience training male players. So I think you're the ideal person to ask. So, human beings come with their stereotypes. Now, have you ever faced any situation or have you ever felt a situation where, as a female coach, the male players may have had a certain kind of mind block towards, being coached by a female coach?
It's I'm happy you asked that. It's not the players, it's the surrounding parents or management of groups. The male players, they don't care who's on the field, female or male coach. If you can coach and you get them to work hard, they don't care who's standing in front of you. I think the perception of sometimes when you find a manager or a club representative or parents, the perception is because I'm a female, I'm not as qualified as the male coach. I'm not a yeller and screamer coach. Everybody who works with me knows that. I'll never yell and scream at a kid. When I was growing up playing, that's all that was done was that kind of fear tactic. And I'm not that coach anymore. I'm sorry, I'm not that coach at all. Like I dealt with that as a player, and I said to myself, one thing I won't do is do that as a coach. I rather build trust and build that chemistry with players than yell and scream at them. So I think sometimes on the male side, and not all male coaches are that yeller and screamer, and some parents like that better than someone who just works well with their kids and does things a little differently. So it's not the players, it's sometimes the people outside of the field that cause those issues. And yeah, I've been in many situations like that, and it's unfortunate. But I only grow from those situations, and it only adds fuel to the fire to be that top level female coach that people don't see gender, they just see that I know what I'm doing, and their you know parents want to send their players to me.
Yeah, so how do you think, overall this mindset can change? How do you think in the future, hopefully, female coaches are viewed as equally to male coaches, where, you're judging their experience and qualifications rather than and their achievements rather than their gender?
Yeah, I guess get females to coach in male settings. I mean, the Division 3 coach that coached down in the States and won the national championship was a female on the male side. And, you'll see a couple females coaching on the male side, not as much, but I think the more clubs don't see gender, they just see qualifications and someone that could do it. And it doesn't matter, hey, they have a male team, you to coach or female. I know eventually here, especially in Canada, they want females to coach females, which is awesome. But for us female top level coaches here, there's not many here in Canada. I don't think myself or many others care about gender. If there's an opportunity to coach on the male side, we would want to take it. It's we would hope that more clubs and presidents and stuff are open to that. And again, hopefully that changes, and it is. You start to see some pro female coaches in the male sport, but hopefully it continues to grow that way.
Yes, it definitely things are changing. Let's just hope that it happens a bit quicker. So now you mentioned
Absolutely.
that, yes, you mentioned that it's 80-20, 80 coaching female players and 20 coaching male players. So how do you change your approach when coaching female athletes as opposed to male athletes?
Yeah, I think it's education, because we don't really have a pathway on the female side that leads into or funnels kind of into something larger on, like, the male side here, you have the MLS, you have the CPL, there's pathways for a player. On the female side, it's about education. So we really, really spend a lot of time away from the field educating parents and players on what's next. A lot of the players know that there's pathways to go to America and play soccer for university or college or play here in Canada. A lot of players we're seeing now opt out of going to university and college and going to Europe if they can to play professionally. So it's just about education. We try to educate people when they turn about 13, 14 on what's next. The dropout rate on a female player compared to a male, especially here in Canada, is almost 80% or something really high between the 15 and 17. We lose a lot of players to you know, lose them to the sport because they don't see that pathway. So what I'm trying to do, especially within my program, is educate people to say, hey, there is a pathway for you. You know, these are the pathways. Again, even if you don't make it pro or you don't make it to university or college, you can work inside a club, you can referee, you can coach. And
Yeah.
the good thing about my female coaches as they get older, a lot of the coaches I hire are ex players of mine. You know, I get players who are playing over in Europe or America or here in Canada to come back when they're home to do like clinics or events or work with me full time. So I give them a lot of opportunity to coach because I think for me, I didn't have anyone to really look up to on the female side. One of my people I looked up to as a youth player was a male, and I think now a lot of what I'm doing within my programs is I have females coach younger females and they get to look up to them and their journey and they connect on Instagram and ask them questions. So I really try to create as many pathways so we don't lose females to sport,
Yeah.
and they're going and playing at that next level.
Interesting. And do you have to change your approach, let's say in a training session or on a match day when you're dealing with female players as compared to male players?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm really organized and when it comes to preparing and getting players ready for matches. I think with male players, obviously the competitive side here starts a little bit younger than it was opposed to the female side. So I think that competitiveness is the only thing that's a little bit different
Yeah.
on the female and male side here, just because of the league. So I find getting females more engaged on the competitive side is something that I really try to focus on for them
Yeah.
and build them up and get them ready. That'd be the only difference of when I'm coaching both and engaging both is that competitive nature.
Right. So this is interesting because what I've heard in the past was that, a female player would receive information in a very different way to a male player because, when you talk about the emotional quotient and that kind of stuff. But yes, I mean it's good to have a new kind of view, a different view. So now that's those are your thoughts on female football. Now I'd like to know your thoughts on mental health specifically in football in general.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before. COVID has really changed things and we're starting to see athletes now who were born during COVID start playing soccer or start playing the sport and they're not as interested in the sport as it was in the past. So mental health has completely changed. I think it's on the forefront. When I was going through my licensing in England and in the States, we talked around the psychological piece a bit. Now going through courses, I've just got into my USSF B. I just got in a couple days ago, and I'm looking at the syllabus and how it'll be for the course, and it's a lot around the mental health side of things, which is awesome to see because I think players now struggle with finding an outlet of people to talk to on that mental health side. I could only do so much for players, but I really try to help them find those people to talk to around the mental health side of things. There's some fantastic resources out there and people to talk to, and just to do simple things like breath work or journaling, etc. But the mental health side, even on the pro level, you hear stories, you read about like Deli Ali coming forward, one of the first players to come forward with his story around mental health, and now more players have came forward. But it's not easy to talk about, and everybody goes through mental health completely different.
Yeah.
So sport is an outlet for some people, and I think that's great. But we have to talk about the mental health side more in sport than we do. I think sometimes we hide it a little bit, and I think there's nothing wrong with speaking about how you feel.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. And how would you, as a coach, what kind of advice would you give to our fellow coaches to try and create a mental health friendly environment at the club they're working at?
Yeah, I say this a lot. I look like a crazy person when I'm driving home from a session because I'm voice noting the session or the game. So I put on my voice notes on my phone and I speak into my phone around the reflection side of things, like, hey, I think this went well, this player played well, this is what we need to do going forward to practice. And then on my way to the next training session, or when I have a second, I'll listen to that back. And again, I've gotten better at voice noting. Sometimes I can go on a rant on my voice notes and it'll take a little bit longer, but I just try to get to the points and then, figure out the rest of what I need to do. But reflection is number one for anyone struggling with the mental health side of things or just needing an outlet. I think journaling is great. Notes on your phone is great. Voice notes on your phone. Calling someone. I have a really really good friend in football. She coaches on the female side as well at another club. We've known each other for forever, and we usually just chat almost every night or sometimes during the day about what we're going through on football. And it's nice hearing another opinion on it. But having those outlets are number one, and I always am a big fan of reflection.
Right. So reflection and perhaps someone to talk to. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So now you also have you also coach private and small groups. So one-on-one, one-to-one, small groups. So what's your advice now to coaches who work in that sector? How can they deliver top high quality sessions to private and small groups?
Yeah, so what I do before I take on a kid for a private training, we set up a 30-minute call with them. I won't just walk into a session with a family without having a little bit of a background on the player. So I try to figure out their level, where they're at, what they need help on. If I know the coach, I'll reach out to the coach to say, hey, so and so wants a session. What do you think I should work on with them? But I think it's trying to figure out the overall picture of the player and really giving them those basic techniques
Yeah,
and giving them stuff to do away from the field. Here in Canada, we see our athletes maybe 8 hours a week.
yeah,
If we're lucky, some clubs is less, 3 to 4 hours. So a lot of the stuff that players do is away from the field. So it's trying to give them homework or things to work on away from the field. It doesn't help being in Canada with the snow on the ground from November to about mid-March. It's tough to get outside, but we get really creative on what we can do with players. Maybe it's watch a match online, or if you have a little space at your house, giving them stuff to do away from the field so that they don't have to come and see me more than once, twice a week.
yeah.
A lot of the stuff growing up that I did, was just self will, going out by myself and doing it because I knew my pathway. So we give them a lot of homework away from the field, but it's trying to over know the player overall. So I think that's my advice to anyone is know your players and who you're taking on and what their expectations are for the session, and working and catering towards what they need.
So just basically understand them to a level where you don't just deliver a session of the internet, ideally.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So now, coming to one of my last couple of questions. We had a guest previously a Nigerian coach based in Dubai who was huge on social media. And now we have got you who's also extremely huge with, a lot of interesting content on Instagram and 16,000 followers and verified blue tick and all that kind of stuff. So could you first tell us why social media, if at all, is important for football/soccer coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started that social media in 2018 as a way to just have an outlet to post content, like post my journey, post, sessions. And I had a group of girls from 2000 to 2003 girls. And we just started this program. It's called Project 3. We took players away from their clubs and we try to create three pathways: Canadian pathways, American, and pro opportunities with them. So, in order to connect with all of them and make it easier, they said, Coach Marie, you got to get on Instagram. Like, it's so hard. You texting us all and stuff. Like, get Instagram. So, I created an Instagram and I would just use that as an outlet to talk to them. Hey, we have this session. And then I started to post a couple contents of them training, and slowly but surely more girls reached out and more players. And then I started a private training with one of my best friends in coaching, and we started private training together, and it started to get bigger. And
Yeah.
then I started to meet people in football, and start to do over COVID, do guest speaking with players. I did a guest speaking session every day, sometimes twice a day, with people from all over the world, pro players, coaches, managers, players, whatever I could do to give people outlets. So I found social media so helpful. And again, it's a full-time job. As much as I say I coach full-time, I'm on social media full-time because creating content and doing all that is tough work.
Yeah.
But it's great when I meet people in tournaments or on the street, or sometimes today at the grocery store someone said, hey, you're Coach Maria, I follow you on Instagram, I like what you do. So that's very, very rewarding that, I do like a motivational Monday post that people reposted and they use those posts to motivate them. So whatever I can do, if I'm an outlet for people, I think it's huge. And I think for coaches, there's some great, great people on social media. And if they don't feel comfortable going on social media, just trying to go and find those people to give them advice or mentorship or some, positive reinforcement is huge.
I think there are a lot of coaches who are perhaps, as you said, afraid or maybe a bit shy to really, get their name out there. So, is there any kind of advice you'd give them to specifically build the confidence to tell the world how great they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest platform I think still for coaches is Twitter or X now for engagement for football, for soccer. So that's the best engagement. There's tons and tons of great content. I mean, I find myself scrolling on there for hours sometimes with just, comments or stuff. So even if you just want to be a follower on there and look out for from some people, or you want to start getting resources, following some people on social media. There's some great platforms that follow me and say, hey, I'm trying to start my own platform, can you give me a shout out? Absolutely. So I think if people need a shout out or whatever, I'm happy to help out in whatever I can.
Right.
My social medias are always open, so I'm happy to help whoever needs help out and give them resources or tell them what profiles to follow and give them any resources or guidance I can.
Yeah, and now you're one of I'd consider you a coach who's been successful at developing your social media profile, your brand, your page. What advice do you have to coaches around the world who want to probably have a similar presence as yourself? How
Yeah,
can
figure
they?
out what you wanna do. I mean, I don't post a lot of content anymore of players that I train. It's something I need to get back to. It's
Yeah,
just I'm so engaged on the field now. Before I used to have someone kind of follow me around and shoot video, and now I've just kind of taken a step back from that and just focused on the kids, because then you got cameras in the kids' face and stuff, and sometimes, the performance can drop. So we've gotten away from that. But there's some fantastic people who just post content. So I think it's finding your niche and what you want to deliver on social media. Is it, content around the female game? Is it content around sessions that you're doing? Is it content around training sessions you're building or your club? So finding your niche and really expanding that and really trying to promote that is important. I try to promote female football as the forefront, and then my players as well, because I have hundreds of athletes that work with me, and every single one of them is fantastic in their own way. And I wish every single day I could post each and every one of them and their journey and where they want to go.
yeah. And you're also unique because you have your own website as a coach, www.coachmariasoccer.com. Can you just tell us about, what made you think about having your own website, and also for the viewers, what does your website really talk about? What does it have on it?
Yeah, I think just my journey, what I do, because people always ask me. I think with my Instagram bio, it says soccer coach and recruiter and, where I work, but that's not enough. So a lot of people reach out and say, what do I do? So I think having a website was the platform to really post what I do and what I'm involved with and what people can expect if they want to work with me, where I'm located, etc. So I think that is the reason behind the website, and is just a outlet for all the questions I would get on Instagram as to, hey, I want to find out more about you. I say just go to my website and kind of see what I'm all about. And it talks a little bit about my journey in football as a player and as a coach, and kind of where I aspire to be with my groups.
This was fantastic. And just before I let you go, there's one question we ask every coach on this podcast. What does the future look like for you? What are your future plans?
Future plans is to keep growing the game here in Canada. I've been offered jobs throughout the world. I'm happy here in Canada as much as I hate the winter. I'm happy here in Canada growing the game. I'm excited to see the pro league come to Canada on the female side and just continue to encourage players and get them through the system and get them offers and sign them on contracts and stuff like that. So that's the most rewarding thing to me. We have a lot of players go on US scholarships, and going to their signing events always gets me teary eyed because, as a player, I've been there and I just want to continue to be there for them and, help them along their journey. And yeah, that's kind of where I see myself going. I'm happy doing what I'm doing now, and I just continue to see it growing.
Please continue your good work, and I wish you success. We have spoken about your journey, about female football, about mental health, about social media. So I think this was a very, very good podcast, and I'm sure that this is going to be of great value to all the listeners from the coaching fraternity out there. Thank you for your time, Coach Maria. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for everybody for listening.
Thank you.